Hey everyone, welcome to the Pep Talk. So I am here in True North Square, the market area. I have the privilege today to actually meet up with John Rush. I traditionally have been trying to get more females to interview, but I really wanted to interview some men because I feel like men are also part of this story and they also need to help advocate for what's going on in equality. And I have seen him do this. If you follow him on social media, he is really an advocate for so many causes and so many people. So join me and let's go see if I can find him upstairs. I have the privilege of sitting here with John. John, can you tell everyone who you are?
Yeah, for sure. My name's John Rush. I'm a huge dog advocate. I have two ginormous dogs, but I also play for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Wonderful. And if you don't know about his dogs, you need to follow him. They are enormous. They're so cute, though.
Yeah,
They're so cute.
They're great.
One of the things that attracted me to John and his personality and what he's been doing is he's not just an athlete, but he also has done a lot with his role. He has impacted a lot more causes and people than he probably even understands, because he just told me he thinks it's like nothing special, and I'm like, it's special. So John, who gave you the inspiration to do that and be that way?
Yeah, it's a great question because it comes from like a lot of different avenues in life. I don't really think it was ever just one person. But if I had to pick one person, it was definitely my mom. A lot of what I do always is for my mom. Like the first time I grew up my hair and I cut it for cancer was because I was doing it for her because she had cancer when I was a kid. And I feel like a lot of like the toughness and resiliency that I've built up over the years is because of her and how tough she is. She's this 5'2" little old Italian woman that she's a pretty tough little cookie. And but I think a lot of what I learned is from her, and then kind of it's interesting to see like how tough she is, how much she does for other people, and how much she gave up and did for us as kids and everything like that, and kind of being able to look back upon it now. And when you're a kid, you don't really ever realize it, right? But when you get into your 20s, you kind of like look back at how much your parents did for you, and then you realize how much they did for you, and you're like, oh man, like that's crazy. Like the amount of effort and forgiveness and caring that they gave to us as children is pretty crazy. So looking back now and being like, yeah, like a lot of what I do now is for her or because of her.
That's amazing. One thing we have in common is my mom had ovarian cancer.
Oh, okay.
And when I moved back to Winnipeg, she cleared out a floor of her house. We moved in with her. I had a newborn baby. She was going through chemo. She was mowing the lawn every day. She was resilient. So just to hear, a lot of times when you ask a man who their that inspiration is, a lot of time it is their man. And your dad looks like a hilarious. I've like seen. But it's really cool to hear that it was your mom, because teeny tiny little packages, they can be mighty.
100%.
John, you had mentioned that you have these two big puppy babies.
Yeah.
But it's much more than that. Do you want to share a little bit about like the causes you support, and when did you fall in love with dogs?
Yeah, for sure.
Or animals, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because I'm vegan, right? And I haven't been vegan my whole life. I adopted my first dog when I was 9 years old. I somehow managed to convince my dad to let me adopt a dog. I told him I would take care of him and do all these things.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah, exactly, right? But I love dogs from like a young age. I always loved animals. I always loved kind of being in nature and things like that. But it wasn't really until recently that I became vegan. I've been vegan for almost 4 years now. And I never really made that connection between the two. But yeah, I've loved animals. I've loved dogs since day one. It was always like a big thing to have them in my life. My first adopted dog grew old until he was 14, which is like old for a dog.
Yeah.
And he died when I was in my third year of university. And then I refused to get a dog until I met
That's
Bone.
called the first breakup syndrome.
Yeah.
Where you like don't think you can find another girlfriend.
Exactly. Yeah, that was exactly it, right? And then I honestly didn't think I was gonna ever really get another dog. And then I started looking for about a year. It took me a year of looking 4 years after he died to finally adopt another dog. So I've always love dogs and wanted them in my life, and
They're amazing.
yeah,
They are amazing. If
they're
you don't
great.
have a dog and you need to have, like COVID probably was really hard if
Oh,
you
for
don't
sure.
like have a pet, because they are so loyal and they love you.
Exactly.
The only thing is that I think my dogs at least were like, why are you around all the time? I need a break.
Yeah, no,
I
exactly.
sleep all day.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
Okay, so you brought up that you were a vegan,
Mm-hmm.
but you're also an athlete. You also, I mean, he just won like a little ring. I think it was like some Grey Cup situation.
Just a Grey
Cup.
Yeah, it's nothing big.
And I know that recently you got a bit of criticism online. Just how would you respond to that, to anyone that might think the same thing?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's interesting because the entire first year I went vegan, I actually hid it from the team because I thought I was going to get so much criticism, and I thought I was actually going to get cut over it. So I hid it from the team, and then slowly but surely, obviously, guys started to notice, and like the team took note. But on the team and in the locker room, I never get any, like, no one gives me flack. The guys are more curious than anything. They kind of just want to know, how do you do it? Like, how do you get your protein in? Because, you know, especially in sports and especially football, it's such a like a testosterone driven sport. Like, everyone's like, you need meat, blah blah blah. You've been taught that from such a young age. You're like brainwashed. Like, I was brainwashed. Like, I had coaches from the time I was like 5 years old telling me that I need to eat meat. You know what I mean? So for them, from seeing me not eating meat, they're just like, what? like how?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So in the locker room on the team, it's great. Like, guys are inquisitive. They ask questions. They try meals. I bring in food for them all the time, and they all love it. It's a really cool and neat experience that I get to have with them. But yeah, certainly it's always interesting to see the criticism I receive sometimes from, you go from such supportive big role models in society that being so supportive of me, like all these other professional athletes being like, man, this is awesome, like, way to go, and like asking questions. And then you get these other people that have, never worked out or are hiding behind a private screen, and they have relatively no influence in throwing all this criticism out, and you're just kind of like, it's kind of always interesting to see for me, because like I do get criticism. Guys comment on my Instagram all the time from behind private screens and private accounts, saying a lot of stuff, and it always kind of makes me chuckle a bit, because it's kind of like that Dunning-Kruger effect, where the less you know about a subject, the more you think you know, and like that's kind of what it's like.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and the more some people say, it's like the less
exactly.
they know about a subject,
exactly.
the more free-willing they feel like they
exactly.
should speak.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's kind of what it is. So, for me, it's more almost comical when I get those comments, because I'm just like, I talk to doctors, I talk to physicians, I talk to dietitians, who are all not only backing me but supporting me, and I have pro athletes supporting me, and I'm just like, so for this random person that has no education behind it, no other foot in the game, and they don't have any experience in it, to throw these accusations, I think it's just hilarious. But I oftentimes use it as an educational tool for others, because sometimes you're just not going to change someone's mind, and like that's the reality of the situation.
So you speak really passionately about your mom, and I love that. And you've spoken recently passionately about the civil movement with Black Lives Matter, and even a little further back about some word choices and just some behavior from some other males about some of the like rhetoric they were using with females. And how do you feel being a white man, and like maybe what your contribution can be or your responsibility can be at this time?
For sure. I mean, that's a great question. I feel like we could do like an hour-long podcast on that alone.
Next time.
Yeah, next time. But I'll try and keep it short, because realistically, especially in today's day and age, my responsibility as a white man is to realize the privilege I have and try and elevate those around me to be in the same place as me. To not, I need to make sure I'm never speaking over those people. So when I talk about, the language we use around women, or about women and degrading women and things like that, or if I talk about Black Lives Matter and other things like that, I need to make sure that I'm coming from a place, one, of education. I need to first and foremost educate myself, and secondly, I need to be elevating other people's voices instead of continuing to use my very white male voice to scream over other people, because that's not helping the conversation, right? In a conversation, I need to be elevating those other voices that have been suppressed for so long. So it is.
We're gonna make a shirt. It's gonna say "Educate and Elevate."
Yeah, there you go.
Honestly.
Yeah, and it's super important coming from a place of privilege like myself, and realizing that privilege and trying to use that privilege to drive those conversations forward, but not putting myself at the forefront. When I talk about these things, I never want to be known as the leader of these movements in any way, shape, or form, because I'm not. And to take away from those other people that, one, are, and two, experience these things would be, it would be detrimental to everyone.
Yeah.
I want to help move these conversations forward. I want to help elevate these voices.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me on.
If you wanted to leave like one last little piece of like advice for people during 2020, COVID's going on.
Yeah.
There might be a second, I don't even want to say it. Anything you want to just like shout out to people here?
Be kind, be empathetic. Everyone's going through something, and I feel like, especially now with everything going on, it's like we're all collectively going through something as a whole society. So I think now more than ever, we just need to be kind to each other and understanding, and open to having conversations, because there's, especially on social media, there's so much just shouting at one another, and if you don't agree 100% with somebody, then you're wrong. And it's just like, you have to have these open conversations for any sort of breakthrough to happen, and not having these open debates is just more detrimental to any movement in any society than anything. So
have the conversation like that. Like if you're gonna take away something, have the conversation.
Yeah.
Be open enough to having the conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
It's amazing how much you'll learn from that.
Exactly. So,
And that's what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like two people that didn't know each other up to 10 minutes ago. Except I told John that we're now besties, so
It's official.
it's official. And you go support them. I'm not sure when you guys are gonna hit the field again.
Who knows?
But when they do,
either, so, yeah.
everyone's socially distancing your seats. Go and support. And thank you so much for being in Winnipeg and being such a great role model for people like my kids.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
More of you, less of me.
Got 2 minutes and 45 seconds.
Excellent. Sorry, I gotta check myself out.
Of course.